Okay, so today we're going to be doing multiplying and dividing rational numbers. This will be an Edpuzzle video. I want you to go at your own pace to see what you can and cannot do. So the first couple of questions are going to be true or false. You can follow along on your notes. So true or false, a negative multiplied or divided by a negative will result in a negative. That is actually false. The way to make this true is to say positive. And the way I remember is if both the signs are the same, it'll always result in a positive. So that's a negative, negative means positive. It's positive, positive, it'll be positive. Next one. A positive multiplied or divided by a positive will result in a positive number. Well, we actually just said that. So it's true. Last one. A positive multiplied or divided by a negative will result in a negative. That is also true. Because when you have two different signs, will always result in a negative. So you can do positive, negative means negative, or negative, positive means negative. Okay? That's just a quick refresher. So now we're going to use multiply fractions. When you multiply fractions, you go top to top and then bottom to bottom. You multiply straight across. So when you multiply straight across, the first one you're going to do is 1 times 2, which is 2, and 6 times 5, which is 30. But this can be reduced. If you can reduce a fraction, you need to reduce the fraction. So the real answer is 1/15. If you want to reduce before you multiply, you can. I like doing that because it actually makes the multiplication easier. There we go, that one. So again, we have the same problem, 1/6 times 2/5. That's a weird 2. 1 and 5 can't be reduced, but 2 and 6 can. So I reduce it by 2. So I take a 2 out of the here, and I make that a 1. And I'll take a 2 out of the 6 and make that a 3. So 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 5 is 15, which is the exact same answer. So it doesn't matter if you reduce before or after you multiply. I'm just going to tell you right now, though, reducing before you multiply will just make your numbers easier. Okay, so the second one is I want you to do this one by yourself. All right, so hopefully you got it. So what you're going to do is you're going to do 3 times 2, which is 6, and 4 times 5, which is 20. Since I did a negative times a negative, that means that the answer would be positive. Now again, 6 over 20 can be reduced to, let's say, take a 2 out, be 3/10. If you wanted to simplify before you multiplied, you would have simplified these two numbers. This would become a 2, and that would become a 1. Okay, so now let's multiply decimals. So our first example will be 2/5 times 0.3. So you just do 2/5 times 0.3. Whoops, that was weird. Come on, Pat, stop messing up. So now you don't need to have the 0 in front of it. If you want to, you can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore the decimal points and just multiply. So 3 times 5 is 15, carry your 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. So now after you're done multiplying, you want to look at how many decimal places you have. So up top, I have 1. Down below, I have 1. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So it means I need to move my decimal 2 times. So you go 1, 2. So my answer will be 0.75. Now I want you to try. So you have 0.02 times 0.3. When you multiply decimals, your decimals do not have to line up. So 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 0 is 0. So I have 1, 2 decimal places up top, 1 on the bottom. So that means I have to move it 3 times. So 1, 2, 3. Whenever there's a gap right here, you just put a 0. So your answer will be 0.006, but it'll also be a negative because you just did a negative times a positive, which means your answer will be a negative. Okay, dividing fractions. I like dividing fractions because we do something called keep it, switch it, flip it. And when you keep it, switch it, flip it, it means you're just actually going to multiply the fractions. So when you keep it, switch it, flip it, you keep your first decimal, you change the division sign to multiplication, and then you flip the second fraction. So now it will be 5 over 2. So 3/4 divided by 2/5 will become 3/4 times 5 over 2. And you just multiply. Remember, when you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. So you have 15 over 8. And I'll just leave it 15/8. You can change it to a mixed fraction, but 15/8 I'll keep. So now you try one. So you're going to do 4/7. So you keep it, switch the sign, and then flip the fraction. And you just multiply straight across. So that'd be 20 over 21. Hey, let's divide decimals. So when you divide decimals, you have these decimals. So 3.5 divided by 0.5. The first number goes in the house. You can also write it like a fraction. So this can be written as 3.5 over 0.5. And remember, the top number always falls into the house. So you write it like this, 0.5 divided by 3.5. Well, you cannot have a decimal on the outside. So this decimal, I'm going to move it until I hit the house. Well, I hit the house one time. So it means I need to move my decimal inside one time. So I move it inside one time. Now I can bring it up. Basically, all I'm doing right now is dividing 5 into 35. Well, 5 goes on 35 7 times. So my answer is 7. So now you try one. Remember, we can do 0.42 divided by 0.06. That line, that fraction line, just means to divide. And remember, the top number goes inside. Well, now you have 2 decimals on the outside. So you got to go 1, 2. What you do on the outside, you do the inside, go 1, 2. Well, look, we're just dividing 6 into 42, which is 7. Okay, let's try a word problem. A cake recipe asks for 3/4 of a cup of butter. Ron wants to make 1/3 of the original recipe. How many cups of butter are needed? Okay, do take a second, do it by yourself. That word of is important. Okay, of in math means multiply. So you can do 3/4 times 1/3 of a number means to multiply. So all you have to do is multiply straight across, and you get 3/12, which also can be reduced to 1/4. You wanted to reduce before you multiplied, you just cancel out the 3's. Next word problem. Big Money was making cookies. He mixed 2/5 cups of flour, 2/5 cups of flour, 1.25 cups of sugar, 2/4 cups of brown sugar together in a bowl. How many cups did he have all together? So you do 2.5 plus 1.25, and you get 3.75. And then 2/4 is just 0.5 plus 0.5 would be 4.25. So that one was a trick one because it has to do with, doesn't have to do with multiplying and dividing. I just wanted to see if you can read the word problem. Last one is if 135 people need to split into groups of 8, how many groups will we need to make? So this one means split, so it means to divide. So take a second and divide 8 into 135. Well, 8 goes into 13, 1. 13 minus 8 will be 6. No one. We're just going to pause the video there.